Student protesters have interrupted a speech held by the incoming RBA Governor Michelle Bullock. Ms Bullock was preparing to speak at the ANU in Canberra last night when half a dozen protesters entered the auditorium. The group was quickly escorted out by security, but not before offering the incoming bank boss some advice.
If 140,000 people need to lose their jobs, I reckon you should go first.
Ms Bullock was eventually able to continue with her address, in which she warned of higher energy prices if the closure of coal-fired power stations were not matched with adequate renewable energy generation. Let's bring our business reporter Ed Boyd now. Ed, good morning to you. Yeah, a bit of a rough first day at the office there for Michelle Bullock. Well, it's not even the first day. She hasn't even started yet, but she took it well.
Yeah, look, she took it well. Obviously, she starts on the 18th of September as the new governor of the Reserve Bank, and protesters have been unhappy with some off-the-marks remarks she made about a month and a half, 2 months ago, around when she was asked what is the level of full employment in Australia's economy, and Michelle Bullock at that point said it's about 4.5%. So the level of full employment is sort of the right level of employment according to economists around what should sustain economic growth, what's the right level for interest rates as well. So at 4.5%, that basically means, and you heard one of the protesters say then, that's roughly 140,000 jobs will need to be lost in Australia's economy to push the unemployment rate up from where it is today to 4.5%. So there's a lot of young people in particular that are unhappy with those comments.
I mean, these speeches can be a little dry, Ed, can't they? I mean, it provided a little excitement to what was going on.
It did. Look, we've actually heard the RBA talk quite a bit about climate and the impact of climate on interest rates in the economy many times before, particularly with Governor Lowe before parliamentary committees. So a little protest actually makes it more exciting and turns it into a news story, because it might not have got any coverage if that hadn't happened.
And meanwhile, Australia has sent its first shipment of barley to China for the first time in more than 3 years after China removed its tariffs early this month, Ed.
Yeah, this is good news. So the first ship left the port in WA yesterday afternoon. And remember, the barley trade with China was worth about $1.2 billion a year. Australian barley growers want their barley to go to China because China pays more for Australian barley because they need high quality barley to make beer. So this is a good story here. Obviously, the tariffs were put in May 2020. There was an 80.5% tariff put on barley, and that stopped the trade with China altogether. But it's back, and it's going to pick up over the next few months as the harvest starts coming through.
OK, our man Tom Petrovsky, he just spoke about this a short time ago, Ed, but today the inflation numbers for July will be released. So, yeah, he's pointed to this 5.2% figure. Can you just explain that for those who missed it?
Yeah, so the expectation is, we know inflation's still high in Australia, but it is starting to slow down a little bit more. And the numbers we're going to get today is the monthly inflation indicator for July. The expectation from Bloomberg survey is it's going to fall from 5.4% in June down to 5.2%. So a gradual decline in inflation. Obviously, the Reserve Bank is going to look at this very closely because we've got the cash rate decision coming up on Tuesday next week. And if inflation runs too hot, they're probably going to think about lifting rates again. But if not, if it comes in as expected, expect the cash rates to remain on hold on Tuesday at 4.1%.
Right, yeah, but that 5.2, that's the annual figure, right? So the monthly rate has to be below that.
Yeah, that'll be the annualised rate for inflation across the 12 months to the end of July. So that's the number that the ABS are giving us. It's a bit of a volatile figure as well, Pete. It doesn't take into account everything they normally measure for the consumer price index on a quarterly basis. Some things are excluded, but it is basically the only data we get now from the ABS on a monthly basis, which is a good thing to see inflation reports coming in month on month.
All right, Edward Boyd with the latest there. Thanks, Ed. We'll talk to you again soon.